by. I'm really ready for this week. I found myself oddly less excited. Like normally I could watch, like I love watching other football teams, but
Sure.
I was less excited with the Cardinals not playing, and I felt it. So it'd be good to get
Mhm.
back into it. Hopefully, it's not hugely disappointing, but we'll get to that. So real quick, looking back at week 11, I finally caught up just a little bit of ground on you. Not much,
Yeah.
but a little bit. You went 8-5. I was 10-3. The big difference makers where I picked the Rams over New England, and I
Yep.
picked Philly over Washington.
Mm.
But other than that, we were pretty much lockstep. So, and we did not, if anyone, in case anyone ever watches it, we did not actually on screen pick Dallas and Houston. I think we would have both picked Houston and been right, but since we didn't do it on screen, I'm just going to leave it off. So, moving into week 12, Thursday night game, a real blockbuster matchup here. Pittsburgh at Cleveland. I don't know why Pittsburgh is only favored by 3.5, even in
Yeah.
Cleveland. I get it's a
Yeah.
division game and all that, but good lord, um, Cleveland is spinning out of control. They should make you kind of encouraged because they're the one franchise that's absolutely in a worse spot than Dallas. Like Dallas
Oh yeah.
this year,
Yeah.
problems, but next year, I actually like Dak. They're paying
Mhm.
not really as much money, but a lot of money to their quarterback, and he's trash. I might rather have Zach Wilson right now. So
Yeah.
I feel bad for Cleveland fans. I really do. But yeah, this week isn't going to make you feel any better. I don't think Pittsburgh ought to have the right combination of things. So I'll pick Pittsburgh to win here. You see any hope for Cleveland here?
No, I mean, as much as I would like to, Pittsburgh has obviously been playing really good ball. Yeah, their win against Baltimore was surprising,
Mhm.
but and I want to say convincing, but it was a very close game. It's an odd game in many ways, but they pulled it off. Turnovers kind of told the story. I think of that game, very defensive heavy. It was a good game. Cleveland, what Cleveland, in my opinion, has going for them, that last game against New Orleans was strange because of the defense. They dropped 35 points on Cleveland. I didn't see that coming. Um, so yeah, I don't see any way that Jameis is gonna. I mean, he's gonna throw a bunch of passes and gonna get a bunch of yards, which is what he does. But I don't see them coming away with the win there. So yeah, I think Steelers take that one pretty easily. Pretty easily. Yeah, the 3 point thing. Yeah, it's hard to understand. And then moving forward, uh, I have Minnesota and Chicago, but I feel like I missed one. Yeah, okay, Minnesota and Chicago. Just making sure. um, these are always interesting games. Chicago's not. I don't think Chicago's playing bad football. I think they're playing pretty good. Uh, the Vikings are kind of staying in that finding enough ways to win kind of mode. Um, I don't have a reason to think that they're not going to hold on to that this week. Chicago will be at home, and I expect they'll play well, but it just seems like a real crapshoot to see if Caleb's going to kind of be the big difference maker or not. So I'll take Minnesota in that game. Where are you at on that one?
Same place, ultimately Minnesota, but I division game and all that. Um, I think they could possibly. This could be one of those weird games where they keep it close. Minnesota started to sputter a little bit, specifically on offense. They're just not as
That's
dominant
true.
as they once were.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I could see this one being close in some weird like 18-13 kind of game, but we'll see. Chicago has a couple of strengths here and there. I feel like their secondary is not bad,
Mm-hmm.
but their D
Yeah.
line isn't amazing. But then the real problems are on their offense. If they can't protect Caleb Williams, and they really haven't been able to do that a whole lot, then they are just crippled by that weakness. It doesn't matter how good your wide receivers are if they got to get down the field in 1 second. So um,
Yeah.
Minnesota, they are hurting after the loss of Christian Darrisaw, their left tackle, but
Mm-hmm.
they seem to be um, figuring things out as best they can with the new situation. They brought in Cam Robinson, I believe it was, So he's trying to fill in over there. But as that cohesion builds, maybe they start to resolve those issues a little bit. I would still pick Minnesota if for no other reason than their run game and their defense. So yeah, I'll take Minnesota there. Moving into Detroit and Indianapolis. It's an unfortunate week. Anyone who runs into the buzzsaw that is Detroit. I will say, as much as they just destroyed uh, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, they are a competent organization and team. Uh, I don't pick them to win this game, but we are just 2 weeks away, or 2 weeks removed from Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions, and he can have a really bad day every once. I mean, I don't think he's ever had a day that bad, but he can have a
Sure.
day where he's off. I mean, they put up 20 points against my Cardinals when our defense really wasn't playing well early on in the year. So they can
Yeah.
have some less potent days, but they are just too well rounded, too well coached. I really trust what they're doing, and I don't entirely trust Anthony Richardson yet. So all that to say, I'll take Detroit in this one. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'll take Detroit. How you faring on this one?
Okay. No, same thing. I think I feel basically the same with this game as I did with the Vikings game. The Lions are playing good football. They find ways to win. The Colts, I think, are a good team, and they have their moments. But yeah, I feel like again you're rolling the dice on a rookie quarterback and how he's going to play. If he has an amazing game, sure, they may pull that off. But that would really be, I mean, that would be the biggest upset of the week, maybe even the season if they pulled that off. Um, so yeah, I'm probably probably not going to gamble on them on that one. Next up will be New England and Miami. So as it turns out, Tua makes a big difference. Miami looks better and better, and it's funny, right? It doesn't even just look like they're better just on offense, where things click and everything's working. It's like they look better all the way around. For whatever reason, his return is, I think, re-energized that team and given them more purpose. They're playing really good. I think the Patriots have stayed consistent. I don't think you want to overlook them. They have some things that they can put up some points. They've got a decent defense, but I think the Dolphins have momentum. I'm going to take them in this one.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I'm in the same spot. I'm actually kind of excited for New England, like
Mm-hmm.
in the future, but for this year, not so much. It's still kind of what we talked about early on. Like some of the positives have actually happened. I like Drake May a
Mm-hmm.
lot,
Yeah,
but they still just don't have the talent to compete this year. Like they'll have some
yeah,
games where they compete, but they can't. Like they're not a playoff team. They're just not. Um, and on the other side of the ball, or on the other side of the whatever, Miami is potentially an actual playoff team. They're one of those couple of 4-6 teams that is like, yeah, they're 4-16 that defies the idea that you are what your record says you are. Because them and Tampa Bay, no,
mm-hmm.
there are some 6-4 teams I think I'd rather play than Tampa Bay. So
Yeah.
um, not that many because I think my Cardinals are one of the only 6-4 teams. But anyway, Miami should win this game. I think they've got a weird thing about playing in Miami against New England as well, where they were struggling even when they had Tom Brady. I think I've got that right. So yeah, Miami should win this one, and they should sneak back into real playoff hunt kind of thing. So yeah, there's not much more to say about that one. But I am looking forward to New England next offseason. I think they're one of the couple of teams that with more cap space than the Cardinals have. So we'll see what they do. Moving into speaking of Tampa, they are going to play at New York. This one could actually be kind of fun, because I heard they benched Daniel Jones, and they didn't just bench him; like they super benched him. So he's not the number 2 now; he's the number 3 to keep him from. It's like protects them from some injury guarantee or something. Like
Oh
they're like,
wow.
yeah, is in case you didn't know you were
Yeah.
done, you're done. So we're
Yeah.
gonna get the guy who's. It's hard to even say his name without doing a pretend Italian accent, but I'm gonna try. It's Tommy DeVito. I did it. Good job. All right.
Very
But
nice.
Tommy DeVito, it's also hard not to say Danny DeVito. But Tommy DeVito is going to play, and he's not a good quarterback, but he will sling it. I mean, he's got like some of the
Yeah.
Mike White kind of thing in him, where it was just
Yep.
like, hey, it's my only chance. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna do what I can. I'm either gonna swing for the fences. I'm gonna look stupid or I'm gonna hit a home run. So um,
Yeah.
all about that. On the other side of this, while New York does have a decent defense, it's an underrated defense that's represented poorly because of how terrible their offense is. Tampa Bay, I think I might have heard they're getting Mike Evans back in the near future. I'd have to double check and see if that's potentially this week or if it's later. But even without him, they're still producing a lot of offense and scaring the um,
Hmm.
nonsense out of every team that they run into. So I'll pick Tampa here. That was a very long-winded way of saying I'll pick Tampa here. Um, and yeah, but still, it should be fun with old DeVito in there. I did it twice. I said his name again. That was good. How do you lean on this one?
I'm looking for that underdog pick, but I don't think I can take the Giants, especially with DeVito. And um, I'll be interested to see how he plays out with them. Does he figure things out with neighbors, and how does that work? There are some positives with the Giants, uh, but yeah, I don't think enough to overcome the Buccaneers. I think Mayfield's, it's just incredible. He's got 24 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. I think that's pretty awesome for Baker. It's amazing to me they've lost 6 games. I find that to be quite amazing. Not as amazing as poor Cincinnati, but it's still pretty remarkable. So yeah, I expect the Bucks will take that game without too many problems. All right, next up is Dallas and Washington. As we talked about earlier, Dallas is going to lose. My my suggestion on that for Dallas is just balance the offense. Again, there's a lot of positives with Cooper Rush from his first game. I like the guy, um, but we need to balance the offense. And I think naming Rico the running back and then refusing to run him is an insult. So let's run the ball. And if we lose, we lose. We're going to be in the bucket the rest of the year anyway. So, but yeah, and Washington is playing good football. They lost to Philly, but they were competitive in that game. Philly's definitely a playoff team. So, yeah, I don't expect for us to compete particularly on that. I'll take Washington as much as it pains me to do so. What about you? You going to take the risk? You were rooting for the Cooper?
I definitely thought about it, and I've voiced extensively my doubts in Cliff Kingsbury in the last 7 games of a season. But historically, he has played very well against Dallas. Well, he hadn't played very well, but coached very
Yeah.
well. His teams have played well against Dallas. That was just something. He was like, even when the Cardinals were terrible, we'd somehow sneak into Dallas and take one. And I have to credit part of that to him, not just the fact. I don't think it was just like a Dallas was allergic to our jerseys or something. I think it was probably the coaching. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that his style might counter what you guys do. I really did think about taking Dallas here because of not because I'm
Yeah.
some, closet Dallas fan, but because I have serious doubts about Washington. And, that last game looks closer than it really was, I think, because for Washington, just because they scored in like the last couple minutes, I think again. And so, yeah, I have my doubts about them, but I think they will pull this one off. If I were a betting man, I might actually take the spread here, but I'm not, so I shan't. But so yeah, I'll take Washington as well. Um, and spoiler, I'm probably not going to pick the upset on this next one, even though I want to as well. Kansas City at Carolina. My Panther buddies here, I keep telling them, I was like, guys, if you win this game,
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
team will be a legend, especially if
No kidding.
one to like stop the undefeated season, but that's already done with now. Um, Carolina's got just a little bit of wild card in them, but they don't have enough to challenge a Kansas City. Kansas City's there's a possibility they'll be kind of ticked off. Um, so I do think that Kansas will win this one. Is the short version of it. It would be something, of course, but yeah, Carolina is probably still heading towards a pretty high draft pick. So, what do you think for Kansas City at Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, the short version is yes, Kansas City should win that game. It shouldn't really be a particularly competitive. Um, One of the high points for Carolina has been Hubbard. I think he's having a really great season, and I think it's easy to overlook it. I think it's amazing that he's done that on a team that's constantly behind, and he still gets he makes the most of his opportunities. I wish I hope Carolina enjoys him at the same time. I'd love to see him in Dallas. With that being said, moving forward to the Tennessee Houston game, this one should be equally entertaining. Houston. Obviously, I don't think we learned anything about Houston from their game in Dallas. I've heard some people talk about it, and they tried to, talk about how clean of a game it was. And I was like, yeah, Dallas has half their team there, so way to go. Um, good for them. But I think we'll learn equally as much from them, in this game as well. Tennessee just seems to struggle everywhere. Levis is great at finding ways to lose. Um, I don't see them. I don't see them competing in this one. I think Houston wins this one at home. I think their biggest thing is don't get injured. What about you?
Yeah, kind of the same. If Tennessee's going to have a chance, they've got to have a pretty decent Will Levis day, and
Mm-hmm.
and CJ Stroud's got to kind of come down just a hair. If they can slow down Mixon, that obviously would help. They can't just let him have, no, sorry, 3 touchdowns, anything like that. Some big,
Yeah.
challenging Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley kind of day. But yeah, they just don't have the horses to line up against the Houston consistently. So, my challenge for Tennessee would be just like, yeah, beat the spread, please. Um,
Yeah.
try not to turn the ball over more than once and beat the spread. If you can do that, that will be amazing moving forward. So, yeah, I'll take Houston here as well. So, moving into the afternoon games, 4:05, we've got Denver at Las Vegas. This one's, I don't know. I guess this one's not all that interesting. I've seen kind of what I wanted to see from the Raiders this year, which was like, how's Brock Bowers? That was the big thing. Do you have a quarterback? And how is Brock Bowers?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a quarterback, and Brock Bowers is
Right.
great.
Yeah.
But now they're just waiting for the end of the season. So, yeah, Denver, on the other hand, while this is a weird division matchup, and this, like so many divisions, the AFC West tends to play itself kind of funky. Um, Denver's coming into form pretty well right now, and I will definitely pick them to win this one. So, um, Brock Bauer is
Yeah.
going to have the day of his life to try to save him from this mess. So maybe you think that's what's going to happen, then. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. Um, I think that even if Brock Bowers was having the day of his life, they might pull him out of the game. I don't even think the Raiders should want to win this game, frankly. I think they may have the number one pick right now. So, just the Broncos. The Broncos are playing good. I think Bo may have had the best game of his season in his last game against Atlanta. Um, I think we saw for a second how good he can be, and I think that was a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how they go into that game, but I don't expect it to be super competitive. So I'll take Denver in that one. Yeah. Then moving on to San Francisco and Green Bay. This game really kind of went back and forth on this game. I find this one perplexing. Green Bay 7-3. They're coming off that win against Chicago. San Francisco is coming off their loss to Seattle. I find the 49ers right now to be very perplexing. Like, how are they 5-5? In a weird way, they remind me a little bit of Dallas in the sense that, like, last year they were blowing people's socks off, and this year is like, wait, they're kind of caught up in all sorts of stuff. McCaffrey came back, and I feel like the team got worse. And I think that's a bizarre thing in a lot of ways. It's weird to see you go from a rookie kind of unknown person who's getting tons of yardage to one of the best guys in the league, and now their running game is anemic. Just a lot of that just seems very strange. So that was tough. But I also feel like Green Bay. I mean, really, Green Bay should have lost that game. And so I don't think they're playing particularly well. I feel like they're eking things out. So I kind of went back and forth on this. at the end of the day, I think that the Niners are going to figure some things out in this game. I'm actually going to pick them to win um, against the Packers, playing away. But I'm going to pick the Niners in that one. What about you?
I'm struggling to actually write what my brain's thinking. Um, so yeah, even though the records are fairly different, what is it? Are they 7-3 or 7-4?
Mm-hmm.
Seven
Seven
and
and
three.
three.
I think of these teams is very even. Like Green Bay,
Yeah.
they got away with. I don't want to say got away. It's not like they cheated
Yeah.
or anything. But like you said, to the Bears, I
It was
mean,
luck. Yeah.
that was a game that they should have lost. And
Mm-hmm.
no, they got it. Win's a win. That's great.
Yep.
But I don't. It's not that I think they're bad. I just don't think that they're necessarily quite as scary as some other 7-3 teams. And San Francisco is a pretty good 5-5. Are they firing on all cylinders like San Francisco of yesteryear, literally last year? No. Hopefully, I say hopefully, as a Cardinals fans, hopefully they all don't show up for the rest of the season. But if I were a Niners fan, I'd say hopefully McCaffrey can get healthy. Like supposedly he's back, but he's not. I mean, you're not really back in
Yeah.
the first game. So if he gets going, and they don't have the greatest run defense in the league, old Green Bay, and they have kind of struggled with San Francisco. And while I want
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay to win, I think San Francisco is probably actually the better bet. Um, you know what? No, I'm taking Green Bay. I'm going to keep projecting, and good things have kind of been happening. So I
True.
somehow Seattle won. I don't know how they did that, to be honest, still, but
Yeah.
I'm actually going to take Green Bay. Just heck with it.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
and we need a little bit of variety. We have not differed on one yet until now. So taking Green Bay.
This week there's more kind of straightforward picks on a lot of games, so
Right? Can I pick
they're very
Carolina over
highlighted.
Kansas City? No.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
anyways, so moving into the last afternoon game, we've got my Cardinals going to Seattle. The Cardinals are actually favored by 1 going into Seattle, which tells you Vegas thinks that we might be the better team, and record-wise, we are. And if we're gonna play like in the same tone that we were playing before the bye, then we should win this game. And I don't mean winning 31-6 and things like that. I was like, no, I just mean we were well-rounded, complementary football. Not
Yep.
we were pretty well disciplined and things like that. Like it was just together. Like it was really working quite well. And if we're gonna play like that, then yeah, we're gonna win quite a few games closing out. Um, Seattle still has their moments. They did beat us twice last year, but they were both pretty close games. I know the first one says 20-10, but if you watch that game, it was like that
Yeah.
game felt closer than 20-10. And then in the last one, we would have won, except Matt Prater had the worst kicking day of his career, and
Mm-hmm.
we kind of grateful for it in retrospect because we like Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think we're better this year than we were at the end of last year. So I really do think, not just as an Arizona fan, but like really do think we're going to win this game. Um, Seattle kind of snuck out of San Francisco with a win. So home field in Seattle doesn't seem to mean what it used to. And I think that they are very beatable there. So I'll take Arizona
Mm-hmm.
here. And to be completely frank, if we're going to go on playing, as I mentioned before, kind of like how we were before the bye, where it's good complementary football, we can stay kind of healthy. We're actually getting 2 players probably back from injury, our starting right tackle and our one of our best defensive linemen who hadn't
Mm-hmm.
actually played a snap in the NFL. That's how bad our defensive line was coming into the year. We
Yeah.
still think he's our best D lineman. So we could be even better than we were before the bye.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, anyway, enough of that. What do you think on this one?
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to follow your lead on this one. Going to Seattle is always entertaining. I agree with you that Seattle is definitely not. They're 2-4 at home this year, so they're not what they used to be there. I think by nature, Green Bay, Seattle ends up being one-sided. Like they're a very pass-heavy team. Gino has made a lot of mistakes this year. I think y'all will be able to overcome that. Yeah, I think that it's fun to watch the Cardinals have come around to be a really solid team. Yeah, it's just trying to ride that, and make the most of it. Plus, I think your wide receivers continue to mature, which is fun to watch. So, yeah, I'm hoping to see them stay balanced. That should be a really fun game on Sunday. Then the night game is going to be Eagles and the Rams. This one's an interesting one because Stafford has games where it's like, wow, he's looking really great. Um, the Eagles, the Eagles beat Washington. It was a close game. I think that they played well. This is going to be my pick for the upset this week. I'm going to pick the Rams over the Eagles. I think the Eagles will give up some pass yards to Stafford, and we'll see if the Rams defense can play a role in holding Saquon down while also keeping Jalen where he should be. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's going to be my upset pick. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna continue my projection, projecting. But I'll take Philly here. We're kind of at cross paths here because I'm picking Philly and you're picking Rams.
And
Um, but yeah, no, I'll take the. They're probably the better overall team right now, and I'm just gonna stick with that.
yeah.
There are those games when the Rams get going, and Puka's 120 yards, and Cooper looks like he's 5 years younger, and
Mm-hmm.
or they get someone else working. Even Kyron Williams is getting involved in that kind of thing, but it seems rather hit and miss. And they need their defense to play really well. Um, excuse me, to keep them in some of those games. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know that Saquon Barkley, backward jumps over anyone in this game, but I believe we ran quite well on them, and they're even better at running than we are. So, uh, yeah, I'll take Philly here. Um, come on, projection, keep on working. Actually, just start working. It really hadn't been that great. So anyway, that wraps up Sunday's games, and then we're moving into Monday night, which may be the best game of the week.
Mm-hmm.
I do think San Francisco or Green Bay will be a really good game, like a good even matchup, and even the Cardinals of Seattle could be a good even matchup, even though I hope we stomp them. But this game, we get the first return of the Harbaugh Bowl since the Harbaugh Bowl back in
Mm-hmm.
like when was that, 2014 or 13? I've lost track. I think 2013. So I'm gonna have to look that up. It's gonna bug me. But this one will be interesting. Um, I kind of lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. I'm actually short version is I'm going to pick Baltimore here. I kind of want to pick the Chargers, but I think Baltimore is going to kind of bounce back.
Yeah.
John Harbaugh, I have to clarify, doesn't lose two in a row very often, and I think that the Rams, not the Rams, the other LA team, the Chargers have. I'm running low on juice here, man. Come on now. The Chargers, they have kind of outperformed their expectations a little bit. Not to say they're overrated or anything. That's not what I mean. I just think that
Yeah.
they're very close to their ceiling week to week, and so if they come down even a little, I think they're vulnerable. I'm not saying they'll play bad, but I think that Baltimore is the slightly better team for this week. So um, yeah, what do you see for Monday night?
I agree that it should be quite quite an interesting game. I think last week we were talking about how the Chargers to me seem like they've just quietly kind of come in and they just handle business and do things, but it's kind of quiet. Whereas the Ravens get a lot of attention because they have Derek and Jack Lamar. Um, I think that I think the Chargers have surprised me on their defense the most. They lead the league in points against. I'd be interested to see how that holds up in against Baltimore, who's a high-powered offense, although they're coming off quite an interesting moment in time. So I think I'm actually going to pick the Chargers in this one to pull what I think is an upset. I feel like that's an upset even at home. Um, I think I would learn a lot about them if they pulled this off. And of course, there's so many. It's like the storylines write themselves between these two teams right now, which is a lot of fun to watch. I would agree with you that this is probably, if you're only going to get to watch one game this week, this is probably the best game to watch. So I am definitely looking forward to it.
I think this is the week that it doesn't eliminate most teams from playoff contention mathematically, but there are going to be a couple of like, well, maybe if we can just win this week, we can still have kind of a
Mhm.
chance. And this is going to knock out a couple of those teams. Like if um, I spoke highly of Tampa Bay, but if Tampa Bay loses this week, I think they're finally getting mathematically in trouble. They and Miami can really only afford like one more loss. I think Indianapolis as well can
Yeah,
really only afford like I said, one more loss. Well, Indianapolis could probably afford another one, maybe, but before it's time to just pack it up, basically, get ready for next year. So there's a lot on the line for some of these teams, even though it's not a it's not a playoff game, it's or a clincher or anything like that, but it could really do that. For Dallas, it doesn't really do much. Um, because of where they are. But for someone like the
yeah.
Cardinals, we actually have a lot on the line this week because if we
Hmm.
win, and my other poor attempts at projecting work, and the
Yeah,
Niners and the Rams, we go from a very close division to wow, we actually got like two games on everyone. All we were
yeah,
really close, and now we've got some nice separation and some momentum. So there's a good bit on the line this week for several teams. There's nothing on the line for the Giants. That should make you a little happier. But there's
yeah.
a few teams out there, but yeah, no, it'll be another fun week. I think there were some better matchups, like broad scope, like last week, but there's still some really good ones now. So I'm excited for it. So
Well, one of the other things I'll be keeping an eye on and have been was the race between Saquon and Derek as far as the running. I was just looking at the stats, just happened to catch my eye just right now on that, whereas they both have 197 carries, so it's really fun to kind of do the comparison
yeah,
because they're at the same. And it's 1137 yards for Barkley and 1185 for Derek, but it's 8 to 13 in touchdowns,
yeah.
which
Jalen
I had lost track of. You know,
Jalen keeps
uh,
robbing Saquon.
yeah, exactly.
He's got of his like 9 touchdowns, like 6 of them were when Saquon, literally, specifically when Saquon got to the 1 yard line, and then they tush pushed or whatever you want to call it. I
Right,
did notice that I think the Eagles have only played 10 games, and Baltimore's played 11. So there is that offsetting
makes sense.
whatever,
Yeah,
but still,
absolutely.
yeah, it's going to be fun. I don't know that it's ever happened before that we've had 2,000-yard rushers, and that would
Yeah,
be really cool. So I'd love the return of the running backs. Yeah,
yeah.
mean, that would be great, and especially if Saquon wants to put up 180 yards or something like that against the Rams. I mean, I'll cry for the
Yeah.
Rams a little, but not much.
No, but yeah, it'll be fun to see how it plays out.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk later.